Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can raise your authority online. And a lot of people talk to me and when I'm speaking at events and they say, how do I convey my expertise in a way that has impact, that people see I'm not just like everybody else, but actually I have some value to add? And so what I thought we would do today is just to explore some simple ways that you can increase the authority that you put out through your messaging and through your content. So maybe you're an experienced, expert or subject matter expert, and you've come online and you've found that other people with less experience than you, less qualifications, less, time serving clients than you seems to get a lot of the attention, and you're struggling to actually make an impact. So I thought we'd look at some simple things that you can do to increase your authority in the way you communicate. So in other words, what can you add into your communication that actually amplifies your authority so that people see you as the expert and not just another person posting and sharing stuff, because there's a lot of that. So the thing that most subject matter experts really struggle with, if I'm honest, is that as you kind of get further down your journey, like when I was in my 20s, I thought I knew everything. And so I had a confidence that was probably poorly, what's the word? I had confidence that I shouldn't have had. And this is true for a lot of people who, build their expertise in a particular subject matter, is as you get more experience with the subject matter, as you have more encounters with that topic area, working with clients, studying, researching, trying new things, the more experience you have, the more you realize there are things that you don't know. And weirdly, the more experienced you are, the more cautious you become in how you communicate what you do, because it's not as simple as sound bites and split-second answers, and that there isn't a one-size-fits-all in many cases. You know this, I know this. But when it comes to social media, where we are dealing with split seconds, views of things, actually, that kind of level, weirdly, that kind of level of honesty, that kind of level of experience where that one thing might work for one person and not for another, or it's not as simple as giving a one-word answer, that kind of complexity can actually come across as doubt. And so even though you are probably more experienced, more qualified, you've got a bigger and longer track record than other people, when it comes to you sharing your expertise, actually you convey a lack of authority. So I've written an article about this, but I want to kind of talk about it a little bit more from my own perspective about the 10 things that I see that subject matter experts do that or don't do that undermines their authority on the platform. So we're going to go one by one. I'm going to talk about them and explain what I mean by these. So the first one is imprecise terms. Let's call it that, imprecise terms. So what you're doing is you're saying, maybe, I think, and I know why people do this. They say, I think, in my opinion, or you could do this, or just that. The reason why people do that is because they don't want to seem up themselves. They don't want to seem like they're telling people what to do. But it also can be read as a lack of confidence. It can be picked up on at a deeper level as doubt. So even though you as an expert, me as an expert, we know that nothing's as simple as just simple, sound bites. Actually, when we don't do that and we try and convey nuance can easily come across as doubt or uncertainty. So phrases like I think, maybe, just, could, might, these all come across as weak words. And so you want to have that certainty in what you're saying. Now, some of you will say, well, I can't do that because, it's different for different people. Well, talk to one group of people so you can give that certainty. We'll come to another point, but in my years of training people with social selling and LinkedIn, I know 100% that if you engage people before you outreach, you get way better result than anything else you can ever do. So I have to say that. I can't say, well, if you engage people, you might get a better response. Nobody's going to believe that. Nobody's going to take action on that. Nobody's going to bank on that because I'm expressing doubt. Might. I might be using the word might to say it's one option of things you could do, but actually that comes across as it might work. It might not work. So delete those doubtful words, delete those weak words from what you're saying. So I think, maybe, might, could, should, maybe, all of that kind of stuff. You want to delete those phrases. Don't use them. I know as an expert, it's not black and white. I know as an expert, there are shades of gray, but shades of gray come across like doubt. Shades of gray come across like you're in theory, not practice. So let's look at another one. And this one will be uncomfortable for some people. You need to be more bold. You need to be way more bold. The first impressions of your post happen in the first 3 lines of copy. All of the expectation, all of the interest starts with those 3 lines. And so you've got to really spend some time building those lines and be bold in what you say. And what we're talking about here is not just curiosity. Is it triggering an emotional response? And are you making a clear statement of belief? People are attracted to people who are sure of themselves, who are confident in their own beliefs. And if you're afraid to stand behind your own beliefs, that will show, that will come out. So whether it's stats, facts, controversial statements, or questions, you've got to make people feel something instantly when you do those first 3 lines of your post on LinkedIn. So really, really important to be bold in those first few lines. And that will help you convey that authority from the outset. You set the standard with those first 3 lines. The next one is, because you're subject matter expert, because you've got years of experience, you've got to get really good at saying things succinctly. I can say that, succinctly. In other words, eliminate your waffle. I've done it myself. I've been writing a post and I want to convey a strong opinion. And then I've tried to justify that opinion and basically waffled on in the post. I do not need to explain my logic behind my beliefs. I don't need to justify that. In one sense, by justifying it, I'm not creating the debate and the discussion. And so people who do disagree with me will say so in the comments. People who do want to know more about why I believe that will ask me in the comments. And so 2 things happen. If I start to waffle on in my posts, I will not get the debate. I will not get the discussion. Second, I will bore people pretty quickly with all the waffle. Shorter messages, simpler messages are what people pay attention to. You don't need to justify and explain it. So cut out as much as you can and just keep it to the key points. So even go to ChatGPT and say, here's my post, and cut out 20% of the words, but keep the key points. And you'll find that you'll get a more succinct post. Waffling is not good. And put it through the 10-year-old test. Would somebody be able to get what you're saying if they were 10 years old? If they're not, move on. Yeah, you need to start again. We should make our posts easy to digest, easy to understand quickly. So cut out anything unnecessary. You don't need to justify yourself. And then another thing, a lot of experts, particularly if you're British, will feel very uncomfortable about self-promotion. And I found that actually that kind of fear of self-promotion goes into extremes. And so what happens is that some people will not just avoid self-promotion, will avoid talking about any of their success in any way, shape, or form, even when it's well deserved, hoping that people will just notice it and see it for themselves. They won't. You have to prove to people that you are an expert, but you don't do it through your words. You do it through sharing stories. And I've talked about my Wow Post Win on Wednesdays, which if you subscribe to my newsletter Signal, you can get a whole breakdown of what that looks like. But you need to be showing proof that you are the real deal on a weekly basis. And I don't mean just waffly case studies. I mean, tell the story. Tell people what it felt like, smelt like, experienced, what the consequences were, and how you fixed it and what it looks like now. You want to be doing that social proof on a regular basis to bang home that you really know what you're talking about. You don't just spout off stuff on social media. You walk the walk too. So start building up that library of stuff. Quotes, if a customer quotes something in an email, copy the quote. You don't have to attribute to them. If I've got some clients where trying to get them to actually agree to do a case study, you have to go through legal departments, and some clients don't want that. That works. Okay, if that's the case, just anonymize it. Just don't quote them. Just don't quote their name. But keep a bank of proof in a doc, in a file, where anytime you get a little quote from a client, whether it be on a call, whether it be on an email, whether it be a formal testimonial or a case study, keep a bank of it and get it out every single week. Show proof weekly. Really important. That was number 4. Number 5. And this is a toughie for experts, especially British ones who don't like to rock the apple cart. You've got to challenge bad advice. If there's stuff out there in the market, if there's stuff that your target audience believes that is wrong, I don't mean attack, but you have to challenge it. So if there are things that are no longer working in your industry, if there are things that are out of date or missing or that the industry's not thinking about, you need to talk about it. You need to get over your fear of being disliked, because actually being bold and sharing what you really think about relevant topics will separate you from other people in a great way. So I don't mean literally drama and clickbait, like cold calling is dead, where it's just drama for drama's sake. I'm talking about thoughtfully going through your industry on what's not working here, and really being open and sharing it, and standing by your beliefs. Challenge that bad advice. Challenge that wrong thinking. Be bold and brave enough to say it, because at the moment, I see across social media, there is an absence of actual depth, subject matter expertise. There's a lot of people sharing high-level, quick tips and tricks, but nobody's going deep and breaking stuff down and saying why this isn't working, and choosing to be a voice in the wilderness that is basically saying, this is wrong, this isn't working. And the people who get the acknowledgement for that stuff, when you go out and you say things that are unpopular, or when you challenge conventional wisdom, right? At the beginning, you feel like that voice in the wilderness. But then people start to realize, no, you've got a point, and you start to bring people to your camp. But if you just say middle of the road stuff, you go along with everybody else, or you decide you don't say what you really believe because you don't want to rock the apple cart, you are just going with the flow. You are just another person in a sea of people, when actually you go, no. We're not doing this anymore. As an industry, I am choosing to take a stand on this issue and show people, and I'm prepared to stand against my peers who believe something differently. And that's okay, by the way. That does not mean you have to make enemies. That does not mean you have to attack other people. You just have to make the case for what you believe and what you think is the right way. So challenge that conventional wisdom. Challenge that bad thinking. It's really important. Number 6, you need to talk directly to your reader. They don't care about you. Yeah. They care about how you help them. And so you need to be thinking about and talking directly to them. Look through your posts. Do you use I more than you? So when people feel like you're speaking directly to them, their brains release dopamine and they pay attention more. They get that reward mechanism flowing, and it makes them pay more attention because they feel it's for them. So speak to them. Think about where they're at, right? Imagine the scenarios that they're going through and speak into those situations, but speak into them as if it's just you having a conversation with them. A lot of subject matter experts, and I've spoke to and worked with hundreds, if not thousands, over the last few years. And I can tell you what happens is when they go onto LinkedIn and social media, they think they're writing a blog. They think they're writing, a news article or a piece for a journal. And they go into kind of journalist mode when actually what you're doing is writing a letter to one person. You're writing a little note on our post is a little note to one person. And if you don't know who that person is, you need clarity. Check out my OHM system. If you don't have that clarity, you can't speak to their needs and what matters to them. And I've seen this, just to go off a tangent a minute, I've seen this horrendously backfire on people where because they don't understand who they're talking to, because they haven't defined who they're talking to, they subconsciously or even consciously, I don't know, start to write content for themselves. So they start to go, oh, do I like this post? Would I read this? Do I think it's good? And the reality is what ends up happening is you start writing content for your peers. You are your peers. So this mistake of not talking directly to the reader, not understanding who that reader is, means that you either fly over people's heads because you're talking to an expert, another expert experienced like you, or they have no clue what you're talking about. And so you need to really visualize and write down who you're talking to and really make it personal. Talk to them as if it's one individual. It makes a massive difference, and it impacts people more when they see you understand their needs, their perspective, their challenges, and you're talking to them like it's a conversation. So this really, really matters. And then another thing, and this bugs me massively, right? Posts are updates. They're not articles, right? They're updates. Most people are reading those posts on a mobile phone, and nobody will stick around if you make it hard for people to read. Big, long, chunky paragraphs, long-winded sentences. It's just you're making it hard work. So, number one, break your sentences down. Yeah, no paragraph should be more than 2 sentences, and no sentence should be more than 12 words. Keep it short, sweet, and concise. That will make it easy to read. So the brain will skim it. The brain of your readers will skim it. They'll look at it. And if they see lots of chunky text, they'll go, oh, that's overwhelming. And I've done this in real time in rooms. I've put 2 posts against each other, one with big chunky paragraphs and one with it broken down. And everybody says the one with it broken down is easier to read and they prefer to read it. So stop the big paragraphs, stop the long-winded sentences, and just write it like a letter. Make it really easy to read. And remember, the majority of people will be reading your post on a mobile phone. Now, let's come back to that whole humility thing. And it's an incredibly British trait, but it's also a subject matter trait, is that selling and marketing feels icky. They want to be appreciated. You want to be appreciated for your expertise, for your knowledge, for your wisdom, for your insights. And what you would prefer is people to actually just inbound you and say, I want to work with you. You need to build authority to do that. All of these practical things will help you build that authority. But this one is actually the hardest for people to do. And it's to weave in your experience into your post without bragging. Now, like I said before, some people kind of go to extremes here. So you have one extreme where it's like literally everything's bragging. I've just made $10,000 and here's how I made it. And it feels like icky bragging. And then there's the other side, the like false humility of people who will basically avoid saying anything. And you can't do either, right? One will grit on people if you're bragging, and the other one will be people will not connect the dots of your experience and expertise without you saying something. So here's some simple things that you can do to kind of name drop your experiences or results into your posts. So if you just say things like, I don't know, here's what I think about sales. Why should they listen to that? What's the reason they need to listen to you about sales? However, if you said something like, after working with 50 consultants and help them fix their sales messaging, here's what I know, you are adding and weaving in a little bit of your experience and know-how so that it feels more weighty. So simple sentences like, having worked with, after 10 years of doing this, not to kind of explain what you've done for 10 years. You just use these casual references, not 10 times in a post, but every so often in posts, not too many, maybe one in every couple of posts, and it will help people build up that picture. Oh, that you're not a newbie to this industry. Oh, that you have done this before. Oh, that you have seen success with this industry before. It allows you to sneakily put your authority into messages so that people get, oh, he's done this with 50 people or 100 people, or he's been doing this for 10 years. So in your posts, name drop your experience or results in a way that fits in with the narrative, but it adds a bit of weight behind what you're saying. So people go away from the post going, well, I should listen to that because that person has done this. And over time, those little kind of name drops build up to people go, they've done this, they've done this, they've done this. And you're starting to build that authority in people's minds. How are we doing? Yeah, I got another one, right? And this is a weird one. It's called command statements. So command statements are almost telling people what to do. Not asking people, not cajoling people, telling them what to do. Giving them direct instructions. And I struggled with this one because I thought I'd come across as arrogant or demanding. And, you know, you always create that kind of fictional person in your head that tells you that's bad, or somebody will get offended by this, or somebody will, I don't know, challenge you and say, what right do you have to tell me to do this? But it actually really does work when you use a command statement. So instead of saying something like, one way you could improve this, you say, fix this and your results will improve. You're telling people what to do. Or you might want to try is, no, do this instead. Concrete, strong statements where you're telling people what to do. And I know that sounds uncomfortable, but it comes across as more authoritative, and people pick up on the fact that you believe what you're saying. You're not suggesting, you're telling them this is what they must do. And I'm guilty of doing this because I want to do the whole conversational thing. But actually, when I do this, I get way more people, particularly when I do it with a call to action, DM me when to get started. I don't say if you want to get started, I say DM me when to get started. It's an authority statement. And when I use it, people actually do it. So say it like you mean it and tell people what to do. I know that sounds horrible, but tell people what to do. They will really appreciate it and value it more. Now, the other thing, and this is my final point, and if you take all of these in and you do these, you will get more authority on a platform. People will listen to what you've got to say. People will take you more seriously if you do these. Now, you want to write them down. You want to note them down, and maybe you need to go back through this episode and pause and write them all down, because these will massively increase your authority. And when people see you as an authority, they are more likely to buy from you. They're more likely to trust you with their problem, with their goals, and with their finance. So you need to do these 10 things. But the final one is you've got to repeat your key messages. You've got to be a stuck record. I know so many people, when I do my workshops now, I have a slide where I talk about 3 important things to remember. And one of them is, for somebody to remember what you do, you might have to say it 7 or more times for them just to get the gist of what you do. And as a subject matter expert, we want to be talking about new things, fresh ideas all the time. And we think that that's what we've got to do. Actually, to become an authority in a topic, you've got to get really good at repeating a few core messages in different ways. Not saying new things all the time, but saying the old things in different ways. And so you might have 3, 5 different core messages that you want to share. They have to be consistent. You have to bang that drum so that people will get it and it will stick. And you will become known for those key things. And if people believe you, you will become that choice. If people agree with you, you will become their preferred person. So reinforce the fact that you have some core messages that you always talk about. Repetition is your friend. It's not an enemy. It's not the sign of you've run out of things to say. It is exactly what you should be doing. So I often say to people, content alone is not enough to win on LinkedIn. And if that's what you're doing, be ready for a long, painful road of disappointment. Now, that's challenging the wisdom on the platform, but I'm repeating that message over and over and over again because eventually some people will realize I've been spending all this time posting as my primary strategy, and I've been neglecting all the other things I could be doing to build my business. And I talk about that all the time. I get fed up of saying it, but if I don't say it, it won't stick. And so you will have 3 or 5, up to 5, say, core messages. And your job is to just use those in lots of different ways, over and over and over and over again. So like I said, these 10 points I've just shared in this episode, they will massively increase your authority. They will change things for you. They will completely change the way you're perceived and take you from just a person onto the platform to somebody that people respect, somebody that people will trust, and somebody that they'll see as credible. And in our low trust economy, where we are today, where anybody can start up, anybody can set up, they can generate all the stuff that makes them look slick. The one thing that separates you is authority. The one thing that separates you is standing your ground and actually letting that expertise come out, showing people what you've really got to offer. And you've got to do it in a way that commands that authority. And these 10 things will massively help you. So go back through this podcast, note them all down, put a little plan together, put a checklist and go, am I including these in my posts? Am I communicating in this way? Put them in and watch your authority on the platform, authority across all your online channels start to rise and people start to trust you and want to work with you. You've been listening to the Mindset, Marketing and Money podcast. I'm Dean Seddon. If you've never listened to this podcast before, I am here to help you grow your business. You need to subscribe.